Hello viewers, you are welcome to another edition of Uthman English class. Today, what we are going to be discussing gathers on what is known as how to write titles, otherwise called writing headings. Basically, in English language discourse, we are talking of, whenever we are talking of headings, we are actually referring to titles and topics. This aspect might seem a little bit tricky or too simple, but there are some things that we need to take note of anytime we want to write the title. And whenever we are writing any discourse, be it we are writing an essay, we are writing a formal letter, we are writing any kind of discourse whatsoever, it might not even be an essay, it might be just a thesis or anything. We have to write a heading. How do we write a heading? Writing a heading is very technical. We need to commit that to memory. It's very technical. It's very simple, actually, and at the same time, very technical. We can actually write our heading in two basic ways. We basically need to consider what are those things that we need to know when we want to write our heading. If you want to write a title or a topic for any kind of discourse, you are at the liberty to choose whether you are going to write it in block form using capital letters all through, or you are going to use small letters technique. Now, let's take it one after the other. If you want to write a heading, you want to write a title in a capital letter form, capital letters format of a title. We need to consider some things. We may think it's very simple. Fine. Capital letters are very simple. Actually, we all know capital letters is a very simple thing. But what are those things that we need to commit to memory anytime we want to write a title using capital letters? You have to consider two things. Number one thing is that if you're writing a title in capital letter, you should ensure everything you write is in capital. At the same time, you should not underline. Anytime we write a title in capital letter, we should not underline it. That's the first logic. And the second logic is that do not put a end mark. What do I mean by the end mark? Probably the full stop, the question mark, or what have you. Basically, the full stop that we add to the end of a statement. You shouldn't add it to write a title written in capital letters. For instance, what am I saying in essence is this? Let's assume we want to write this phrase in capital letter. His dreams and aspirations. His dream and aspiration. We are to write a title in capital letter like this. We have to be very technical. We have to be very careful how we are writing it and what the things we need to take note of are. The first thing that we need to consider is this: we write everything in capital letter, and everything should be written in capital letter. There are some of our students may write their capital letter I like this, no crossing on top and on the bottom. This is very wrong. If you want to write a title in capital letter, make sure you write your capital letter I as a capital letter. On no account should you write your capital letter his as this. If you write like this, it is very wrong. You write like this, at the same time it's still wrong, but you need to write like this. You need to let your I be stipulated as I. At the same time, there are some that will write the capital letters in wiki-waki form. Please be careful. Anytime we write a capital letter, it should be capital. Look at the height of every bit of my letter. The height is of the same level. Not that I write my end now like this. I write A like this, and I write the N like this, and the D like this. This is wrong. We arrange it like this. This is not a capital letter form. Please take note of this. That is number one. Number two is the fact that I write the title in capital letter. I do not underline. Anytime you write a title in capital letter, do not make a mistake of underlining it. That is another thing. And at the same time, after the last letter, I did not put a full stop. Take note of that as well. No full stop should be added to a title written in capital letter. That is the first format of writing a heading. We write the heading in capital letter. That's the first format. Please hold on. We move on straight to the second format on how to write the heading. If you want to write the title in small letters now, we need to consider some things. There are many things that we need to consider in this regard. Please, let's be alert and let's be perfectly attentive when we are talking of this one. You want to write the title and capture it in small letters. Look at the title I wrote, writing headings. My first letter is capital letter. Now the second one also is capital letter. Is it supposed to be like this always? No. We need to consider some things. There are some components of letters that we need to consider anytime we want to write titles. Number one thing that we need to consider is this. If you were to write a title in small letter, you should be able to dichotomize or differentiate between what is known as lexical items and grammatical items. What do I mean by lexical items and grammatical items? We all know that we have what is known as parts of speech in English grammar. Parts of speech could be grouped into two. We have the major class and we have the minor class. The major class are also called the lexical items. They are the items that carry the meaning, while the grammatical class are called the minor class. Grammatical items are called the minor class. Take note of that. Let's firstly examine these items I just mentioned. We said we have to consider lexical items, and from there we consider what is known as grammatical items. These are two different entities. Anytime you want to write a title in small letters, we need to consider these two items. Now, what are the lexical items? I said before that they are the parts of speech that carry the meaning, that expresses certain meaning in the discourse, while the grammatical items are just there for grammatical purposes. They are not carrying any major meaning. That's why they are called minor class, and the first one is called the major class. What are these items that are called the lexical items? The first one is noun. Anytime we want to write a title, we consider what items stipulate noun there. Any of the words that you use there that represents noun or pronoun will be grouped under lexical items. Apart from that, we have to consider what is known as lexical verb. Lexical verb, otherwise called the main verb. The lexical verbs are also called the main verb. Now, speaking of lexical verbs, we are talking of those verbs that really express action. Those verbs that really express the action in any statement or a sentence that we give. Now, the next thing that we need to consider is called modal auxiliaries. The modal auxiliary verb, we are talking of the verbs that are that involve will, would, shall, should, can, could, may, might, and so on and so forth. Why do we categorize this one as lexical item? They also carry out certain specific assignments. Apart from playing grammatical role, they still play lexical meaning. For instance, if I say, tomorrow I shall travel, definitely I'm giving a prediction. It has a meaning. Or this evening I will do it. Definitely I'm certain that I have the willingness to do something. That shows it's not just grammatical item there, it's expressing certain decision there. At the same time, apart from this one, we also consider items belonging to categories of adjectives. If you have an adjective involved in the title, it is categorized as lexical item. And the last one is called the adverbs. If you have an adverb as well, it is going to be categorized as lexical item. Why that of the grammatical items involve the following? And the first thing that we need to consider on the grammatical item is called the determinants, or let's say the articles. Now, you should remember in grammar, we have three basic articles. Article a, and they. We're talking of definite and indefinite article. Now, articles a, and they. If you have any of these three, a, and, or they, we have it in the title. We need to refer to this as grammatical item. The second category of grammatical item that we need to have right now, that we need to consider, is what is known as primary auxiliaries. Primary auxiliary verbs. What are these primary auxiliary verbs? They are five. They are five. We talk of am, is, are, was, and were in the active form. If you talk to me in the passive, that will be three. We have be, being, and being. Now, all these primary auxiliary verbs, they are categorized as grammatical items. Now, the next one is called the anomalous auxiliaries. Anomalous auxiliary verbs, they are 3 in number. Actually, we call them anomalous because they perform 2 basic functions. They can be used as lexical item, they can be used as lexical verb, at the same time used as what is known as auxiliary verb. Now, they play anytime they play the role of lexical verb when they serve as a possessor, but they play the role of grammatical item when they are acting as a marker of perfection. That's why we call them the verbs that we use to express perfect tense, an action that has already been completed. They are 3 in number. What are they? We have has, we have and we have had. These are the 3 items that we're talking about here. Now, the next one after this one, we're basically talking of what is known as prepositions. Preposition is also categorized under the umbrella of grammatical items in grammar. At the same time, the last one that we need to consider here, we talk of conjunction. If you have any one of the following, any one of these I listed, they are to be categorized as what is known as grammatical items. I believe that one is actually taken also. Now, the next thing that we need to consider is this. Let's hold on. Before we go on to the next item, let's have a little recap. The first item we talk of writing a title in capital letter. When you write everything in capital letter, you don't put a full stop and you do not underline. And your capital letter should be capital. Not that you write one in capital and one in small. No, everything should be in capital letter. That is number 1. The second one is we talk of writing in small letters. And we said when we want to write in small letters, we have to consider some things. Try to differentiate between what is known as lexical items and grammatical items. I believe that one is also taken. And we talk of the lexical items. We're talking of all those items that could be categorized as nouns, speaking of pronoun, speaking of lexical verb, speaking of modal auxiliary, speaking of adjective and adverbs that we have there. They are called lexical items because they perform certain action, because they have specific meaning. And now the next one that we need to consider is called the grammatical item. What are the grammatical items? We talk of the articles. There are 3, a, and they. At the same time, we talk of the primary auxiliaries. Like I said before, they are the following. They are ham, if you have any, is, if you have if you have was, likewise were. All these are called grammatical items. And the next one is talking of anomalous auxiliaries. What are the anomalous auxiliaries? They are 3. Like I said before, we have has, have, and had. I have done the work. He has traveled. I believe we also say the birds had left before we returned. Now, the next one is preposition. Anytime we talk of a preposition, we refer to that as also as a grammatical item. I bought a car. I bought a toy car for my daughter. For there is a preposition. Now, the next one is conjunction. Bola and Shaliwa are friends. And there is our conjunction. Take note of all this. If you have them, they are called grammatical items. Now, what are those things that we need to consider? Let's wait and see again.